Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, Minister Grisha Heiliger Martin and her support staff, good afternoon and welcome back to the continuation of this public meeting. Our sincerest apologies to our viewers and listeners for the earlier technical issue that we had, namely, we lost current here in the building of Parliament and needed to wait until that matter was rectified. We're back up and running. Lights are on. We were at a point of the meeting where members could have asked clarifications based on the answers provided by the minister to questions in the first round. Several members had already posed their clarification questions, and we were at MP York for his clarification questions before we had to adjourn. I can also inform, especially for the members of Parliament, that due to this meeting having to be adjourned for the time that it was adjourned, the 3 o'clock meeting will not be able to take place because we're going to allow all members to finish their clarification questions, and maybe the minister would be ready to immediately respond. And then, of course, we have the second round of this public meeting. That was just to give an explanation to where we are at right now in this public meeting of Parliament. And I now give the floor to MP York. Remember, members of Parliament and all, that we are in the clarification round. We are not yet starting the second round of questions. So MP York, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, good afternoon to yourself, Minister, support staff, and honorable colleagues, and those listening at home. Madam Chair, I really wanted to clarify one thing. One of the questions I posed, I asked for verified rooms. The reason why I asked for verified rooms, that leads me to the following clarification question. Does the government, whether it's TEAT, whether it's VROMI, does the government have a definition for what is a hotel room? So is there a definition? What is a definition of a hotel room in the sense of, is it a space? Is it a space that could be cut in 2, 3, 4? Is there certain criteria that a room needs to adhere to for it to be categorized as a hotel room, right? Because we don't want to fall in the endless hoop of semantics. So is there a criteria to what defines a hotel room? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP York, for that clarification question. I see MP De Wever requesting the floor. MP De Wever, you have another clarification question to be posed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lady, indeed, because it actually, it's because of the questions asked after for additional clarification, but because of the break we had, due to something outside of our control, it gave me time to go back and listen to the minister again. And I wanted to point out to the minister of an error that she made when she was stating the chronological order of the licenses, whether they were standalone or hotel, which is exactly what people pick up on. And after the minister listed 1999, some licenses that was issued in 1999, she proceeded, the Minister of TEA proceeded to say, 3rd of April 2021, a company issued. 22nd of May 2021, another company issued. And then 2nd of October 2021, another company issued. And then after that, it went on to 17th of January 2011, a company issued. And then May 8, 2013, a company issued. So because of the fact that the 2021 dates were not in chronological order, I believe maybe it was just an error in stating 2000, either it could be 2001 or 2011 instead of 2021. She then went on to state 20th of July, 2021, and then the business name. So it's just to clarify the chronological order is indeed in the earliest being 90s, going up to 2000s, because the 2021 3 companies issued a license in 2021 before the 2011 date, it's very confusing. So that's a
You would like
proper
that
clarification.
clarified?
Yes, Chair Lady, thank you so much.
Thank you, MP DeWeaver, for asking for that clarification, which I'm sure the minister will go into. Members of Parliament, I don't see any other member requesting the floor for clarifications. I look towards the minister. I know that the minister was ready with the clarification answers of those clarifications requested before we had the adjournment. So I asked the minister if she will proceed, taking into account the few questions that were asked since we resumed. The minister is ready to continue or to answer to the clarifications. So Minister Grisha Heiliger-Martin, you have the floor.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you, Madam Chair Lady. And thank you, members of Parliament, for the clarification questions. I start with MP Irion. The minister mentioned that she followed the procedure of the policy and the history of the ministers. All the ministers had their own sentiments. If the entity did not reach the 35%, then why then give the license? MP, as stated, through you, Madam Chair Lady, in the answers provided earlier, said entity, based on the report received, confirmed that they are 133 rooms. This makes up a total of 66% of the 200 rooms required, as mentioned in the casino policy of 2011. Next clarification regards the entity had 135 rooms. Where in this advice is the proof that the entity met the requirements? The report being referenced is prepared by the Department of IETA and was just submitted to Parliament for reference so that they can see where we have the confirmation of the rooms. Did the entity meet the requirements from justice? And if the MP, through you, Madam Chair Lady, is referring to the positive outcome of the criminal and financial screening, then yes, at the time that the license was issued, the screening had a positive result. Was the MBA ran by legal department for vetting? The answer is no, it was not. It is not standard practice to send an MBA to legal unless the format or the content of the license or template changes. Should there be any changes, the Department of Div provides the update and templates to the organization accordingly. Why does the casino license not mention anything about the policy and the 2-year policy? This is because it is not included in the standard template used for using this license. So the policy requirements are reflected in my letter to the entity. So in other words, the standard templates, it's not part of the policy. Is this, yeah, I'm kind of repeating it, but I think I was clear there. So you mentioned, according to MP Irion, I mentioned that I sent the inspectors down to check the room count, and was an email or report, was it submitted to my person from the IETA department? Please provide. Yes, the report was submitted by Parliament today. Then another mention, according to the MP, was made that the 2 years to reach, that was made of 2 years to reach 200 rooms. Is it the intention of the minister to revoke the license in 2 years if they don't meet the criteria? The policy indeed provides a 2-year window for the completion of the remaining required rooms to meet the 200 room threshold. While my priority is to uphold fairness and ensure compliance and establish guidelines, any consideration regarding the continuation of the license must be supported by timely and substantiated reasoning. So should the license holder anticipate challenges in meeting the deadline, it is their responsibility to notify government through proper channels and before the deadline expires with clear justification and supporting documents. Only then can such a circumstance be considered by my person and the relative authority. In the absence of such communication or in case of clear neglect, the likelihood of revocation is high and will be pursued in line with the policy. Next clarification came from MP Ludmila De Weaver. 133 rooms that the minister stated is available there for anyone to stay in is actually there. Am I understanding that 2 years starts as of the 2025 for them to provide the 200 rooms? That is correct. The hotel currently has 133 rooms, and I requested the department to do a confirmation on said report, and that has been shared, and that is correct. The 2 years starts as soon as the license is issued at 133 mark for them to arrive to the 200. And then she also reiterated, I think, one of the clarifications from one of the MPs. Indeed, I made a mistake. It was, instead of saying 2021, I should have said it 2001. So 3 licenses was listed in 2000, issued in 2001, and 1 in 2021. So correction for that as well. And then MP Doran, I think, asked the exact same question. So, he asked, has there been any operational license for casino requests over the last few years? I'm not sure how far back the MP would like me to go regarding license requests. However, in 2021, there was 1 license issued. Since my swearing in on May 3rd, 2024, I have encountered 2 hotel casino license requests, DV and Port-au-Plaisance. And additionally, as previously mentioned, there is currently a request for the placement of a slot machine in PGIA. So in total, to my knowledge, 3 so far, and as far back as 2021, there was 1 as well. What is the current operational status of the new casino? Based on research thus far, they don't have the rooms to qualify for the license. MP, based on the report received from IETA, the entity does have the rooms to qualify. Was the moratorium lifted to grant this casino license? No, it was not. The moratorium does not apply for hotel-based casino licenses, only stand alone. Did I understand the minister to say that 3 casino licenses were launched in 2021? Again, no. I mentioned there was a mistake. I did say it corrected myself. It's for 2000 and 2001. I mentioned 3 times, and 2021 once. Now, someone is typing, and I can't. I'm confused now. Okay, stop typing. Okay. With regards to the obligations, conditions, and possibly issuing the license, given the fact that the minister mentioned that the gambling issues that we had here, and it's stemming for decades, were you obligated to issue a new casino license knowing all you know? As mentioned before, the issuance of license was processed based on the existing policy and regulations that were there in place when I took office. While I am fully aware of the long-standing gambling-related issues in our society, the granting of casino licenses is guided by established procedures and legal frameworks. Of course, there is no obligations to take any particular decision, but the decision to grant or deny a license comes from with legal consequences. Additionally, my discretionary authority to make a decision was diminished due to the previous pre-approvals that were granted by former ministers. Next clarification from MP York. What is the current verified hotel room count? Based on the report from IETA, there are currently 133 rooms.
Minister, with your indulgence, I see MP Irion is requesting the floor for an interruption. MP Irion, you may have your interruption.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding the statement the minister made just now regarding the legal requirement based on pre-approval and her earlier statements regarding the rooms, the minister has an advice signed on February 7th, 2025. The room count that the minister sent us is on March 11th. So the advice then, was the advice then signed prior to the room count or after? Because if you didn't have the legal basis then, why would you then sign the advice without knowing for sure the room count? And then the legal basis isn't there.
Thank you, MP Irion. Minister, MP Irion is actually contesting the timeline, and if you could address that, please.
Okay. So,
Minister, you may continue.
thank you, Madam Chair Lady. So, I mentioned just a few seconds before the MP interrupted me, or asked for his interruption, that it was already pre-approved by 2 ministers in writing, and the documents are with Parliament. I asked for a recount March 11th after that press briefing and after the request from, just to reaffirm or to be sure that they had the room. That's why you're seeing the March 11th. But if the MPs would take some time and read the letters from both the ministers, it was kind of sort of already pre-approved that they were getting this license, the advice. And if the
Minister?
Yes?
I need you to clarify something, and that might help the discourse. And in terms of what you sent to Parliament up to now regarding this topic, if you can specify that, because I know we receive an advice that has some letters. So if you can kind of clarify which letters are included with what we got so far.
So, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So before this meeting started, I submitted the 2 letters from the 2 former ministers. That was submitted right before this meeting. Yes, it was submitted. Then, yes, thank you, MP. It was submitted. And then after the after the clarification, I recently just submitted the advice from the minister before. So I don't know if the MPs would like to take some time and read it. It's been submitted. It's with Parliament.
Minister, just give me a minute, please.
Sure.
And let's make sure what we
That
have,
we receive it,
so that,
yes.
we
Let's do
don't, the discussion don't continue about us not having received. So members, you have received the advice, the package of the advice that contain some letters. To our acting SG, we also have received in the package, in the advice, it has the application form, the previously granted permits, the Chamber of Commerce for PDP, the letter of Minister of TIAT granting the license, and I'm just making sure that I understand what all is in the package that we received. So I'll get that from, let's just understand what so we're going to make the completion of the package that we have thus far so that we understand what letters we have. And then the minister also sent us some additional letters. Okay, so we have the letter of the Minister of TIAT granting and the letter of the Minister of TIAT that pre-approved. So that we have so far in the package. And then the minister is saying we also received some additional letters just before this meeting. Just so that we're all on the same page and we have the same source documents for the discussion. So our secretariat is going to confirm for us what all we have. And then we will continue with the minister responding to the clarifications. Minister, just give us a minute while we're still looking into what we received separately. Because otherwise, every time it's mentioned, then you'll have to go back into it. And so just let's make sure what we have from the side of the ministry. Talking without my mic. Minister Grisha Heiliger Martin, you may continue with the answers to the clarification questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. I'll proceed with the clarifications from MP York. Which department or entity is legally authorized to conduct the room count? The Minister of TIAT has the authority to oversee and regulate the gaming industry, including the issuance and revocation of casino licenses. TIAT has the authority to ensure compliance with the room requirement, which may involve conducting inspections or requiring documentations from hotels to verify eligibility for a casino permit as stipulated in the rules of the game policy. Was the room count verified against the official building plans and permits submitted to the government during the building phase? Does the room count add up to the drawings submitted? And if so, I would like to see the drawings. The room count was not verified against the official building plans or permits submitted during the construction phase. Instead, the Inspectorate of Economic Affairs and IETA, Transport Affairs, conducted an on-site field survey to determine the number of operational guest rooms at the time of inspection. What is the minister's plan to address gambling addiction, particularly in low-income communities? As stated in my response to the questions posed by several MPs regarding the gambling addiction, to address this issue the SMGA will incorporate monitoring and data collection systems. The new framework will include educational campaigns together with policy measures and legislative reforms to effectively reduce gambling addiction. The number of persons who require assistance through the recognized support systems like the Turning Point Foundation will be monitored. The work group is currently evaluating these matters. Even though we cannot present exact numbers at this time, the operational SMGA aims to resolve existing data deficits and create a focused and quantifiable approach to managing problems and disordered gambling throughout the island. What is the minister's position on securing permanent employment contracts for casino workers? We are committed to creating conditions that protect and support the rights and welfare of all employees. While a casino operator maintains the day-to-day employment decision-making, all licensed entities must follow our regulatory framework that prioritizes employees' protection and development. Will the minister consider trying casino expansions to social trade-offs, such as requiring casino owners to reduce lottery booths in vulnerable areas to cooperate with social responsibility? Casinos and lotteries fall under separate regulatory frameworks, so it would not be appropriate to directly tie casino expansions to the reductions in lottery operations. However, the ministry is committed to ensuring that gaming contributions contribute positively to society. To that end, we are exploring ways to strengthen corporate social responsibility requirements for all gaming authorities. These efforts aim to support vulnerable communities, promote responsible gaming, and ensure economic benefits are balanced with social responsibility. Has the minister read the reports as requested by her some time back? Yes, I did. Can the minister verify if my count is correct that 9 out of the 11 standalone was granted by DP? The majority of casino licenses were issued prior to 10-10-10. This was during this period. No commissioners held the authority to grant such a license. These licenses was issued by the Executive Council. To determine the composition of the commissioners that formed the Executive Council during their respective periods of issuance would take some research. Does the government have a definition for what a hotel is? And is there a criteria that defines a hotel room? For a specific definition, I will have to review and revert back to the MP. However, in this context, a hotel room is considered a unit designated to provide lodging and services for guests in exchange for payment. Then I'll go to the clarification questions posed by MP La Cruz. Rouge et Noir, the minister mentioned that back door can be open after 6 p.m., but the advice was not only the stipulation. The stipulation was that everything was going to be covered from that end, so that during the day, you cannot tell it was a casino during school hours. The license was issued by my predecessor and does not include what the MP mentioned. And I would like to make a correction in an answer that I gave previously, as I said that the back door of the casino was permitted to open as of 6. This should be between 5 p.m. and 4 a.m. And I have it right here. Yeah. It's on the permit dated December 27, 2023. How many people are working and how many permanent in the casino? Most casinos remain non-compliant with labor registration requirements, and therefore, at this time, an accurate figure cannot be given at the time. Once we receive this date, I will share it in writing to the MP. And MP, lastly, I think MP Myers' clarification was on the 65%, that the policy changed from Coopers and Library and 10 standalone casinos, 200 rooms. The policy was changed by the National Alliance government based on the advice from Burami. He, the MP, implemented the 35%. Please clarify why it was changed to such time back. Okay, that's why it was changed? Okay. The amendment, this is the Antwerp, the amendment of government casino policy. Sorry? Sorry? Oh, okay, so, sorry, MP, if through you, Madam Chair Lady, I can't really get the reason why at this point in time, and I don't know if the MP would maybe have a little patience with me because I couldn't clarify that one.
Minister, could you tell me?
He said that he's asking,
And this was-
asking for clarification why it was changed such a time back. The reason for that is unknown to us
And
at
that
this
is
moment.
which MP?
This is MP Myers.
Oh, okay.
clarification. That's the-
And you are saying, Minister, that you,
Are unable to get to the reason why it was done.
okay, that's clear. And
Yes.
while we're on the topic, Minister, of course, we're in the clarification rounds. The members have already asked their clarification questions, but I just want to inform you that MP York is indicating that you did not understand his clarification question. So when you finish, if you could just go back to that one, the clarification by MP
Which one?
York.
Which clarification?
Okay,
There's a
you-
few.
So basically,
The
Sorry.
MP York, just so that we get, that we get answers to the questions, I will allow you, albeit, while the minister's providing clarifications, but please clarify where you believe the minister did not understand your question. I'll allow you to do that, but of course you'll have to stand and briefly make that point so that we can get
Clear clarification.
the matters that are answered right. MP York.
thank you, Madam Chair. I was referring to the question where I asked the definition of a hotel room. So basically, so the minister to understand, for example, if you have a 2-bedroom, is it seen then as 2 rooms or as 1 room, for example?
Okay, that is understood, but Minister, you want to
Yes.
address that one time, or
Sure,
you want to
sure.
continue and then you come back to it?
Yes, the advice speaks of a unit itself. Whether it's a 2-bedroom or not, it's a unit. Yeah?
Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you, Minister, for responding, and you may continue with your answers to the clarifications. Oh, you were finished. Okay, thank you, Minister, for your answers to the clarifications. Members of Parliament, you have received the clarifications based on the answers provided by the Minister to your questions in the first round. Members, we are still live and running. And so we continue with this meeting. I'll adjourn for 5 minutes. Somehow I get a feeling that some members might need an opportunity to briefly talk to one another, so that I'm going to adjourn just for 5 minutes, and then we'll go over to the second round of questions. And that is according to the list of speakers, of course. So members, we'll just adjourn for 5 minutes, give everybody the chance to take a breather, and then we shall continue. Meeting adjourned for 5 minutes. In fact, until 3:15 according to that. Oh, okay, no, never mind. We adjourn for 5 minutes. Meeting adjourned for 5 minutes. Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, we continue with this public meeting of Parliament. We are now going over to the second round, and that would be the second round of speakers, of members of Parliament. Before I give the floor to the first speaker, according to our speakers list, I would just like to reiterate that in connection with this meeting and answers given by the minister, we have received IS numbers 813, 813. We have received IS number 819, and we have received IS number 820. Of course, all of them of this parliamentary year, because they have been booked in connection with this meeting. Members of Parliament, as I said, we now go over to the second round. And according to the speakers list, the first speaker on this topic at the start of the meeting was MP Lyndon Lewis, who is not present at the moment. And the second speaker, according to the list, would be MP Irion, to whom I now give the floor. MP Irion, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, one and all. Minister, thank you for your answers. And I look to seek some clarity. So first, I would like to know the weight of, because Madam Chair, the minister keeps mentioning the pre-approval. So what I would like to know is, what is the weight of this pre-approval? You mentioned that 2 prime ministers gave a pre-approval. So what is the weight of this pre-approval? And what is the legal basis? So how strong is it legally? So did you get any legal advice internally from in your cabinet? Any advice from the Legal Affairs Department? So how heavy is the weight of this pre-approval? And then, like I mentioned, the advice was done in February. The request from the rooms was March 11th. You said, yes, you based it on the pre-approval. In all the documents given, the only entity that said the amount of rooms was the business itself. So not the inspection. The business says, I have 132 rooms. So it's not even in line with your own presentation, through you, Madam Chair. The director says we have, and what year this was? December 21st, 2023, the director says we have 132 rooms. So you state 133. Listen, reading, fundamental, all these things coming up, but at the end of the day, the numbers don't align, all right? So even the inspection doesn't align with the document given by the director, unless they built a room in that meantime. So can we get clarity on that? So what legal basis did you have the policy, right? So that means the minister was not in possession of knowing how many rooms they really had. And what I would like to know is then, so if the business said we had 200 rooms, no kind of control, no kind of due diligence would have been done to ensure that that was the case. You're only basing your MBA, your John Hancock, your signature, your MBA, your legal basis is based off of the casino saying we have qualified, not your department saying that. Okay. So can we get clarity on that? And the question from the clarifications that wasn't answered, because in here also they state that we're going to start to build and pilot in 2022, that process started. Process hasn't continued, or hasn't reached the 200 rooms that say we're going to build. Fine. Is the ministry, is the government going to revoke if that is not the case? Because that's one of the things we asked in clarifications. Can we also get, in the advice mentioned, an advice from a senior policy advisor? It's not attached to the advice. Can we get the advice that was supposed to be in the advice from the senior policy advisor regarding this whole process? That'll be all for me, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Irion. Members of Parliament, I continue, and according to the speakers list, the next speaker is MP La Cruz. And with that, MP La Cruz, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. I have no more questions. I hope after today we could put a dot behind this whole issue with some clarity and honesty, because that 133 rooms, I don't know, from Parliament side, a little work visit would be really nice from Parliament, because I have no trust in that whole situation. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP La Cruz. Members, we continue, and MP Otley is the next speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First time speaking for the day, so good day to the Honorable Minister of TEAT, her support staff, and the viewing and listening public. As I stated in the first round, I didn't have much questions because at the end of the day, the issue that arose here was whether the company complied with the request of 65% of 200 rooms. Today, we see answers from the minister stating, and paperwork stating that according to the Inspectorate Department, the company has 133 rooms, which equates to 66%. I will say this, based on the information received, I would have to take it with a grain of salt. I would have to accept it. What I would like to note, though, is that according to my colleague before me, there is some discrepancies, and I would advise the minister. I hear, through you, Madam Chair, the minister speaks of the previous letters, the previous letters, the previous letters. And I know the minister's intellectual fortitude, and I know the way that the minister scrutinizes everything that was done by those before her. So I would say, please, let's never repeat this mistake and go blindly and sign just using a letter from a previous minister. Because the previous ministers, while the letters state pre-approval, which again should not be stated, it also stated conditions to be met in order for the approval to be 100% confirmed. And from what I'm seeing here with the paperwork, signing went ahead before the 100% approval came in. And that part could have gotten you in serious problems through you, Madam Chair, Honorable Minister of TEAT. So until something is proven different, I have to rest my case as it comes to this meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Otley. The next speaker is MP York.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I first want to start off by apologizing to the minister for one fact. In the first session of this meeting, of round one, I told the minister that, I said to the minister for AAU, Madam Chair, that I've been asking her questions on this topic since December, and asking for particular answers that, asking her particular questions to answers I have yet to really fully receive. But I was fact-checked about that matter, and it's actually not December, but October 2024. And if anyone were to watch prior debates and meetings, I'm very consistent in what I have been requesting of the minister. For I've never really been on the minister's case for her decisions, but more what goes into the decision making. In saying that, this topic, since the publication of that the casino was granted, I've heard many reasons to what led to the granting of the casino, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, I just heard another reason up to just now. And what I've been asking actually since I've been sitting here in this seat is structure. Structure and vision. Why I say that? Because similar to what the prior speaker before me said, it would seem that a lot of ad hoc decisions are being made and due diligence are not being done. And when I say vision, I need to, like I said in the prior meeting, I don't need to fully agree with what the minister is doing, but I have to be able to follow it. And the more I'm listening and the more I'm reading, I'm becoming even more and more confused, regardless of decision made. Why I say that? In prior debate as well, I pointed out to money spent and manpower allocated into making reports, doing studies, etc. And in 2000, for example, just for example, in 2005, we had from the steering committee, a tourism master plan. This is just an excerpt. These pages, it's just an excerpt from the original document, Madam Chair. I think this looks familiar to you. This is actually a document, a report of 500 plus pages. I only seeing the, to save some paper. I didn't print everything, but this is basically the report that was done in 2025. In this report, and this was also done by at that point, Department of Tourism, or whatever, Tourism and Transport. In this report, they advise a maximum of 10 standalone casinos. Now, even though the report is not allowed, this was money spent, resources allocated to, nothing done with it. Then I continued, and thankfully, we now have a governing program, and that is something that I'm very glad to have. So I perused the governing program, only to see an excerpt in it, and as I read it, the uncontrolled growth of casinos and lottery booths will be addressed, policies will be developed to ensure a responsible and transparent system of games of chance, preventing abuses and minimizing social impact. I would like to zoom into the very first sentence, the uncontrolled growth of casinos. So here we have a governing program that runs to 2028, God spare life, and in it speaks about curbing the growth of casinos. The uncontrolled, to be exact, verbatim, uncontrolled growth of casinos. Then, in the documentations submitted by the minister, there's a document, an advice, where the minister's SG, February 1st, 2025, gave a negative advice for the issuance of the casino. Now, I know it's just an advice. There's nothing illegal by not following advice. But what I'm trying to say is I cannot follow the reasoning of the minister if it's all these things pointing towards doing one thing, and then the minister saying, oh, because of the prior minister, I continued it. And there's nothing wrong with continuation, because governing is about continuation. But it can't be that on one end, the minister is scrutinizing, or not scrutinizing, being critical of decisions made by the prior minister. And on the other hand, saying, well, he did it, so I just continued. What I say that to say there's nothing wrong in doing the yes or doing the no, continuing or discontinuing, but I need to be able to follow the train of thought of the minister. And right now, all paperwork say one thing, and the minister does something else. Not pointing at anything illegal, but I'm trying to point at what is, I wouldn't say the vision, because the vision is basically of this government is the governing program, and this is clearly not part of the governing program. So what are we really doing? What are we really doing? Because when I asked the minister for her stance, through you, Madam Chair, in October, not December, in October, the minister told me she had to wait on the gaming board report. The gaming board report is still not in, but a casino license is granted. I asked the minister in the prior meeting, which the answer she just gave, what are the plans for gambling addiction in low-income areas? Now, thankfully, I heard that and I understood that there's a workforce that has been put together to come up with ideas for that. But everything that contributes towards the aiding of, I would say, our people, to me, is on the back burner. But casinos are being signed off. Seems to be a priority, right? Now, in my clarification, I asked the minister, through you, Madam Chair, can the minister define, is there a legal definition for what is a unit? I understood the minister explained something that we all deem logical, but is that the legal definition, or is there even a legal definition for what is a unit? What is a hotel unit? Because we could all stand here and we could say what I find is logical, or what another MP find is logical, or what the minister might find is logical. But at that point, we're all talking out of a stance of convenience for whichever argument we are trying to make. So I'm asking the minister again, is there a legal definition that the government has on paper for what is a unit, a hotel unit, right? Because if one day we count in 2 bedrooms as 2 units, and the next day we count in 2 bedrooms as 1 unit, a 2-bedroom unit as 1 unit, there's no structure, and we cannot follow what that is. Another thing, the reason I'm asking for the vision, the reason why I'm asking for the structure, because there's a moratorium for a reason, right? Because a moratorium was lifted in order to grant this casino, and the minister did nothing illegal by, there's no moratorium for casinos? None at all?
MP, via me.
Via, I didn't say anything, Madam Chair.
Oh, no, but you're communicating?
No.
Okay.
I was just reading body language, that's all.
Oh, okay. That's also a skill. Okay. You may continue with your questions.
So there was not, thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome.
So there was no moratorium. I would like to know, when was the moratorium lifted, right? And the lifting of the moratorium, I'm not trying to point out again that nothing illegal, is fully in any minister's discretion, whether this minister or a prior minister or prior ministers, to lift a moratorium. But the public needs to be able to follow it. Because if Harry on the road wants to open up a casino tomorrow, he might be told, hey, according to this report and that report, we already hit 10, we are actually on 11, we can't grant anymore. You miss out. Or, hey, after this whole discussion, a moratorium was then reinstated, and you miss out. So how does the public, or how does someone have a fair chance, a fair opportunity when it comes to casinos on this island, when it pertains to all these policies? Because to me, all these policies, it is not towards this minister in particular, but this dates back all the way to the mid-90s. And I shall round up. It dates back to the mid-90s, where policies are used as convenience, and sometimes it's not always in the convenience of those that are submitting a request. So, again, if the minister can explain to me, moving forward, what is the plan, I would greatly appreciate that. With that being said, Madam Chair, that would be it for my round 2.
Thank you, MP York. And just a reminder, members of Parliament, we're in our second round, and the speaking time for this meeting was 20 in the first round, and minutes that is, and 10 in the second round. So that's just a reminder for this round. And I continue with the speakers, and next up we have MP Kotai. MP Kotai, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to all. Good afternoon to our minister, my colleagues, those in the Tribune and those tuned online. Just real quickly, listening to the deliberations, Madam Chair, one might forget that many of these processes, permits, and policies and approvals did begin under the previous administration, including those who are now raising the most questions. To me, it seems like a little case of amnesia. Let's be clear. The minister followed through on decisions that were already in motion, not inventing them from scratch. Now I know the usual response. You pick and choose what you want to continue, but let's be very clear. What's decided to continue is guided by law, policy, and what is in the best interest of this country, not convenience, not politics. We cannot demand continuity when it suits us and then call it inconsistency when it's politically convenient. That's not leadership, that's theatrics. If we are serious about governance,
MP Kotai, as you noted, we have a request for interruption, which I now grant to MP York. MP York?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know via the interruption microphone, I can't directly ask a question. The MP doesn't have to answer, but I would still like to ask the MP one question. The MP just referred to doing what is best for the country. We're here discussing the granting of an additional casino, and in the light of all the reports about addiction, etc., I would like to ask the MP if he is willing, towards the end of his soliloquy, if he would explain how is this in the best interest of the country. Not saying the minister did anything wrong, just what is in the best interest of the country. Is this in the best interest of the country? Thank you.
Thank you, MP York. MP Kotai, you may continue.
all right, so as I was just saying, if we are serious about governance, Madam Chair, then we must also be serious about institutional memory and accountability, not just when it benefits us. So let's move forward grounded with facts, fairness, and genuine commitment to progress. Because blaming a party for without all the facts is kind of ludicrous to me. With that said, Minister, through you, Madam Chair, I have just 3 questions. Are there any rules that say a casino must hire a certain percentage of locals? Will there be enough staff in the new gaming authority to do the job right? And lastly, can you explain to me in plain terms how the digital system will track casino activity? And Madam Chair, just to give a small answer to the interruption, how do you know that it's not good for the country? Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Kotai. I continue with the speakers list, and the next MP up to speak is MP D.M.R. Labega. MP Labega, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to the Scafia. Good afternoon to the Minister and her support staff. I want to thank the Minister and her support staff for answering the questions that were posed in round 1. I especially like the history lesson that was given by the Minister, stating that, because I stated in round 1 that it was being alluded to that you will believe that this current minister is the one who gave out all the casino licenses, built all the casinos, and everything happened under her tenure. So it's great to find out that this issue in particular has been going through the process of 4 ministers dating back, right? I also like the history lesson I was giving that most of the casino licenses were issued under the executive council days, before 10-10-10, because it would make it seem that your actions in this instance is because you're DP, right? Because all you're hearing is DP, right? But if most were given during executive council, I guess DP is to be blamed for dominating elections where we're dominating the executive council back in the day, right? But nonetheless, sometimes certain people have to play old school politics even though they're young. But I'm not here for that. I'm here for solutions. And what I get and what I want to take forward is how are we, as members of parliament and government officials, going to move forward with this information and do what we have to do to regulate the gaming industry. Now, as you clearly stated...
MP Labega?
Yes?
Through me?
Through you, sorry.
Yes.
Through you, Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair. What's important to me is the arrival of the Gaming Committee, which will now regulate not only the regulations, hold the casinos accountable, but also regulate local gambling addiction. And For me, I frequent the casino. My game is I play poker. However, I look at that as I'm playing against players, not a casino. But I do it responsibly. I go, I mingle. It's not an addiction. So what's important for me is how is the gaming committee going to regulate how many times you can go and who can afford to go, who's doing it responsibly. So a lot of those questions will be pertinent to be answered. And also, people that go to the casinos, they're going to have time, which means I think a lot of education should begin. If you have time to go to the casinos and gamble, you also have time to learn a different skill in this day and age that you can monetize on, right? So it's to show the people who have gambling addiction that with their time and resources, they could also self-educate themselves on something that will give them long-term benefits instead of just a game of chance. So with that being said, I thank you and your team for explaining all you have explained through you, Madam Chair, and that will be all. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Labega. I now continue, and I give the floor to MP Veronica Janssen-Webster. MP Janssen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to my colleagues, and welcome, and good afternoon to the Minister and her support staff. Thank you very much, Minister, for the information that you gave us in answering the questions. I just have one follow-up question. I had asked how many standalone. You indicated that there were 11 standalone casinos. Through you, Madam Chair, I would like to ask the Minister if casino licenses in PJIA, future casino licenses in PJIA, if that would also be considered standalone, or if there would be a separate category given for that. And I ask that because I think it's the Minister herself who mentioned a request from March 12, 2025 for PJIA, but growing up, I have always heard about another request forever, and I wanted to know, because that person also got some kind of a promissory note back then, and I wanted to know once and for all, is it so that that person is never going to get, did we indicate to him, listen, you're never going to get your license? Or is it so that he's still going to get his license? Sometimes he's going to get it, sometimes he's not going to get it. Now you hear somebody else wants it. I'm talking about specifically a license for the airport. Some clarity on that. What is the situation? Will there be a casino in the airport? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Veronica Janssen. And members of Parliament, I continue with the speakers list, and I give the floor to MP Ludmila De Wever. MP De Wever, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Lady. I believe the Minister answered the main point of this, of whether or not this was done legally or in line with the policy, the existing policy. But it leaves the interpretation or the understanding that perhaps this is a time that we revisit the Rules of the Game 2011 document and see where we can strengthen it, improve it. That way the concerns of the way of working as well as the public is basically covered in it, to the extent that I explained in the first round, where when you leave interpretation open, there's about 7 different scenarios that will come up in the distancing from a school or library. So it just gives you a preview of where you can strengthen this policy. And in saying that, since we are doing a lot of math today as well in the meeting, we should consider whether or not we want to just make it very clear cut and say, if we don't have 200 rooms, you don't get a casino license for a hotel. So we just have to say yes or no, keep it black and white, and then we're not open for interpretation or any confusion by what any previous minister or future minister did or plans to do or will do. I will inquire. I know that the minister has brought it up before in our budget debates. It's been mentioned as well briefly here, but it really is important for us to sort of make a statement or understand clearly where we are in terms of the country packages relating to the Gaming Authority. Because the Gaming Authority will take away all the focus that we have as well as the gambling addiction, and then really say, hey, we have an industry that's been existing here since 1982, which has gone unregulated. And we need to decide what we're going to do with this industry. And I will remind us that we also have another industry here, which is one that we like to shy away from, which is about animer measures, as they call it. But we have to decide what is the right thing in terms of regulation and just call a spade and decide on whether or not we're going to do this in a fair manner and get exactly out of it what the rest of the world gets out of it when they have a gambling industry. Because a lot of it goes into it's established as a nonprofit, a lot of it goes back into social work. I'm not saying that that negates the negative impact of the gambling industry, but since 1982, this has been in existence. So decide going forward where we stand with the social responsibility of governments. I believe everything that I had any questions of is covered in the sense of where we are with the fact that I believe the minister should let us know about an update to the rules of the game, that we clearly understand where we are with the country package regarding the gaming authority, and clearly defining whether or not we think that we're in a position to even allow anything else, something like an airport. Lastly, I will say this as a recommendation for a way of working. Using plain English, like I said in the clarification round, is really easy to understand. So when you have ministers getting very creative with the language, the English language, and using a term like pre-approval or pre-denial, it really starts to muddy the waters, which is why all of us are now questioning something that should have never happened in the first place. So just remember that ease of the English language. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP De Wever. The next speaker is MP Christopher Waver. MP Waver, you have the floor.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, honorable members of Parliament, honorable minister, support staff, those tuning in via whichever media. First of all, I would like to compliment the minister for her in-depth presentation here today and answering the questions and listening to what's going on over the past few hours. I would think maybe seeing how it went with the time frame and everything. Yes, when I listen to certain members speak, not everything has to be either against or for. That was done previously, but I would figure I would take it as a compliment that a minister would continue something that was done prior. So that shows that maybe something was done good in a previous minister. So instead of looking at it as maybe a negative, maybe it could be a compliment in a sense. It was also mentioned about policy of convenience. And then when we look back to the clarification from the good MP next to me, MP Myers, where we say the initial policy was changed to 65%. And then a question could be, why was it then changed? Well, to my understanding, the initial policy was changed to 65%, but it was left open-ended without any justifications either. So imagine the minister would come here now and look to change a policy without any justifications to that as well. And that's why when the former Minister Myers entered office, he changed that policy to add the addition to it to say, yes, but within the 2 years, the 35% had to be reached to be able to ensure that it's not just left open-ended, that the casinos or the hotel owners would not just stop at the 65%. So, yeah, we are asking a lot of valid questions here today. We are asking questions about casino license, which is definitely a valid concern. But also, I think the main concern is, and the main question should be asked, is what is the process right now about the regulation of the gaming board? For all these years, ministers come, ministers go, opposition is there, coalitions are there, and those that are sitting on the other side now, you know, we say, okay, 4 years and all that stuff, but where was this addressed, and where is now the time frame when that's concerned with the gaming industry, the gaming board, to actually regulate these type of issues so that we don't sit here for a few hours here in Parliament talking and just, but we have actually something in place that can regulate these things so there's no questions or doubts as to what's going on within this industry. So that's it for me, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Waver. The next MP up to speak would have been MP Roseberg, who is not present and has given her her absence notification, and thus I then look to the next MP on the list of speakers, and that is MP Peterson. MP Peterson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to the Minister, to yourself, Madam Chair, and to everybody else. It is also my first time speaking today. Madam Chair, I want to spend my 10 minutes trying to legally, in short, dissect what has happened here. Because everybody knows my stance on casinos. I am against them fully. But we also have to look at governance. And for me, what's important, Madam Chair, not only for the Ministry of TEAT, but for all ministries, is accountability. And to get accountability, you need to know exactly where decisions stem from. So if we're going to look at this exact decision to grant a casino license, we need to look at the wording of the documents that we received as MPs, and we need to read them good. Because the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So, Madam Chair, through you, I want to address, first of all, not the letter from previous Minister Leo Lambrix from 8th of January 2024, 3 days before election, but I want to go back to the letter of 11th of April 2022, issued by then Minister Roger Lawrence. And I quote, they speak, Madam Chair, of a pre-approval. I quote, note that although not all the above-mentioned requirements are currently in place for the hotel-based license request to be granted, I embrace the plans to further develop and enhance the entire Port de Plaisance property, in particular the hotel. Then he continues and says, in support of this, you are granted pre-approval of the issuance of a casino license for a hotel-based casino at Union Road. That is what the letter says to the company in 2022. Okay. My sentiment on promissory letters, has been known. But okay, let's continue. We then get to the 8th of January 2024, Madam Chair, right before elections. And that is a fact. And we like to beat around the bush when it comes to that, but afscheidsbeleid is where I'm getting at. In the letter of January 8, 2024, Madam Chair, the then minister goes again. Therefore, I am pleased to inform you that from the side of the Ministry of TEAT, having met all requirements by law, we are prepared to grant PDP Resort the casino license for its hotel casino. As such, the license has already been drawn up and prepared for signing. These two letters, Madam Chair, have been given to the company. They were given to these people. So if you want to set government up for failure, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. So we are here acting as if our hands were tied, and guess what? This minister now was faced with 2 promissory notes from the company. So now she has to go dig up back to see internally where it went wrong. And we actually got the internal advice today. This advice, Madam Chair, dates right after the letter of January 8, 2024. This advice dates January 27th, 2024. And in this advice, Madam Chair, let me open it here. It mentions, Madam Chair, on the January 27th, 2024 advice, after elections. So now the ministers have already an indication as to how long they will still be in the seat. So you need to put yourself in that timeline, Madam Chair, and then the advice comes. inhoud doelstelling van het voorstel. In following up on the received letter of intent to approve a hotel-based casino license for PDP, the company is following up. So we issue a letter to give the pre-approval, and then the reasoning for our advice is now the following up on said letter of pre-approval. Madam Chair, these games, we're going back to the 90s. Because it seems as if we're just using the same old tricks over and over and over again. Now, if you look at accountability-wise, what if this minister decided, you know what? No. And actually, me as a minister, I would have been bold, Madam Chair, through you. But that's just how I think, and that's just my sentiment towards casino. I would have been like, you know what? Even if they have 2 promissory notes, let's take it to court. Fact is, as an LLM, I can also say they might have won. Because they were te goede trouw. Why? It's government that gave them these letters. Not somebody from within government, no. The minister, the one by law authorized to do this. So we want to play the blame game, but by the end of the day, what MP Ludmila de Wever said is key. What MP York said is key, and what MP Otley said is key as well. The issue is we need to stop it. We need to stop it.
With your indulgence, MP Peterson, I see
course.
that MP Otley is requesting the floor for interruption, which I now give him.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, as it relates to the Honorable MP speaking about the previous ministers and the letters, I would say this, because let's call a spade, okay? The first letter was issued by a minister during our tenure, a minister in which the Honorable Minister was a part of the coalition during that time that letter was issued. Again, he speaks of Roger Lawrence, he speaks of another letter issued by a previous minister, which goes a bit too far in granting. The first letter says, in the condition that the 65% is met. But I want to make this statement clear. Again, the games has to stop, because everyone gets to create a chaos and leave. And the brainchild behind this letter also gets to create chaos, and from what I understand, helps the minister prepare answers for today. So I'm going to say this. It has to stop, and it will stop. So we'll continue with it. I just wanted to make that clear, Honorable Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Otley, for your interruption. And I invite MP Peterson to continue. MP Peterson, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that's the first time an interruption actually helped the speech that was, in the making. So I actually agree with MP Otley. Accountability goes way further than just the ministers. It goes way further than that. So I agree, MP. And now I'm coming back to the same point that I was making, Madam Chair, where at some point, and MP De Wever said it, it needs to just stop. We need to make a decision and say either we're going to be for or we're going to be against. And for the animated measures as well. Because, like you said, it's either we're going to act like Las Vegas and get the money that these casinos are getting to actually fix the island up where we have no issues infrastructure-wise, or we're going to regulate and look at our society and our social issues and prioritize what's important, the people. It's if and if. So, Madam Chair, I just wanted to make that clear when it comes down to the minister's accountability and also the risk that she was put in with the actions from the previous ministers in regards to this specific casino. But on that same note, Madam Chair, through you, and on the same note of the interruption, I myself was an opposition member for 4 years, and I remember when COVID hit. When COVID hit, the then Prime Minister, decided to issue a state of emergency, something that I was against, that we all in opposition were against. Why? Because that had to come through Parliament. And it was not done. So when that happened, the then Prime Minister had, all power, so to say, according to the law. And I specifically remember a list of essential companies being created by the then EOC. And if I'm not mistaken, some casinos were put on that list of essential companies. I want a little refresher to you, Madam Chair, if the minister can indulge me, to confirm if that was the case, that these casinos were seen as essential back then in the state of emergency throughout COVID, and also if they received relief, because a lot of these companies back then received relief. And if these casinos received relief überhaupt within these last 4 years, then we have a serious problem, because what they gave socially will not correlate to what actually was done. So, Madam Chair, I think that'll be all for me, and I await the minister.
Thank you, MP Peterson. And MP Doran is the next speaker up, and I invite him to take the floor. MP Doran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Good afternoon once again to the Minister, her support staff, my colleagues, and a special shout out to the people of St. Martin that are tuned in. Madam Chair, I heard the Minister mention about pre-approvals and, but I want to remind the Minister the market wasn't pre-approved, it was fully approved on all corners. And we still have yet to see any kind of excavation work or any work taking place where that is concerned. So we can't on one end, when it's convenient, talk about continuity, and the other end we shake you with it, literally. Madam Chair, I think it was about 2 or 3 speakers ago, I heard an MP basically mention that a casino is in the best interest of the people of St. Martin. Madam Chair, those things worry me. It worries me for various reasons, Madam Chair, because at the end of the day, this is something that has been plaguing our community, as the Minister mentioned, for decades. Yet you hear this kind of rhetoric coming from the same party. In any case, Madam Chair, I have a question to the Minister again. Were you, through you, Madam Chair, were you obliged to issue a new casino license based on the arguments mentioned in the promissory notes? Were you obliged? Did you seek any legal advice? The reason why I ask that, Madam Chair, because when you go at the policy, the rules of the game of 2011, as was spoken and mentioned over and over about in here in reference, it says, in the event an existing hotel started with an expansion of its property room inventory, or at least the amount of 200 rooms as required in the casino policy, in order to qualify in aanmerking consideration for a casino license, and the request for the casino license has been filled in, the request for the permit could be granted by the government. Could and qualify. So according to me, there's no room here where the Minister is tied and has to comply with it and all these things. That is the impression that is given here. Madam Chair, St. Martin is 16 square miles. Our dot side is 16 square miles. 37 in total, so nobody don't misquote me and say I don't know the size of my own country. 16 square miles. We have so many casinos.
MP Doran, with your indulgence, I will allow MP Peterson the opportunity to interrupt. MP Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not to interrupt the MP too much, but I would just like to give the MP my professional assessment on those letters. I encourage the MP to ask an LLM, a lawyer, what the implication is of those letters and what it could have been, instead of using his emotion to try to justify what the letters said. The letters read very clear, and any lawyer can tell you that.
Thank you, MP Peterson. MP Doran, you may continue.
It's so interesting, Madam Chair, that we have lawyers that sit in Parliament for 4 years, going on 5 years, mention that there's nothing tied to the government, so there are no, I say that there's no obligatory, but the MP just mentioned that, yes, the letters could be damning in court, but yet when his minister came here, said that the decrees that were signed for land carry no legal weight. It cannot be. When it's convenient, we're using the law to suit our needs. Anyhow, thanks for the interruption. Madam Chair, move on. Where the room count is concerned. Because what I noticed as well in the documents that were submitted, Madam Chair, is that on March 11th, 133 rooms were registered based on the report. Now, when I look at the report, Madam Chair, that was provided, at least I don't know if there's another report because we keep asking. This is a report, Madam Chair. A one-pager with, I think, maybe one paragraph and just one sentence that says conclusion. It starts off, it addresses the department head, subject room assessment at Princess Port au Plaisance. They are minister. Below you will find the results of the assessments of the rooms. Then in the case, it says a request was submitted to the section casino control to execute this on Tuesday, March 11th. Conclusion, total amount of rooms, 133. No pictures, nothing. Madam Chair, I was a minister of Rummy for a little while, and when we do inspections, you give a full detail of what is going on. So I would like to know through you, Madam Chair, can we be provided with the full report? I'm assuming, and I hope, and I just cross my fingers, that this is not the report that the minister is referring to, because nevertheless, this was still sent after the fact of the license being issued, only after pressure was put to provide that. So that is a request I have. I move on through you, Madam Chair, to ask the minister, why did you go against your Secretary General? Because we got a whole class in here about listening and not listening and what we should listen. I would like to know, why didn't the minister listen to the SG when he gave a thorough explanation as to why the license should not have been granted? Now, the SG is the highest civil servant, which we all know, so I would just like to know, is there a specific reason? Because in the advice, I don't see where, let's say, as a minister, you're allowed to disagree, but then you would have a substantiation as to, hey, based on X, Y, Z, this is why I choose to go left instead of right. I would like to know if a memo is missing from that advice, and if not, why not? And also justification from the minister as to why the advice was not taken from the SG. Through you, Madam Chair, I would also like to know if the minister can provide, because you know this whole discussion about 133 rooms, 88 rooms, 132 rooms based on the letter from the company. Minister, can you provide the building permit for the original project, the original hotel? Because that would put everything to rest right now. Because I remember when I signed the updated permit that has still not been executed, they had 88 rooms on their old building permit. So where the extra 50 rooms came from, I don't know. So through you, Madam Chair, that's a question and a request. Can you please provide the old building permit from Port-au-Plaisance, where I know that 88 88 rooms was the case. So the extra that came up to 133 is still a question to me. Next, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to know if the minister is open to allow an independent body to go and do an inspection in order to ascertain and put this whole thing to rest in terms of how many rooms there are at the PDP property. Through you, Madam Chair, I've heard a lot of talk about what NA did and NA did and DP did. But I didn't want to ask a question because of all that rhetoric earlier, but I mean, it leaves me no choice to ask through you, Madam Chair, if I can get a response or overview from the minister, because I know the minister already has in place which years, which casino licenses were issued. I would like to know who was the leader of government in those times. So which party was the leader of government in those times? When all these, I think it was about 16 we have now, I would like to get that so that we can have some good facts for the people of St. Martin as to who issued all these casino licenses and continue to issue them. Through you, Madam Chair, I would like to know again, did the minister seek legal advice from Ye or any other legal entity regarding issuing of this license? And if it can be provided, I would really appreciate that. And lastly, Madam Chair, I have a letter here dated March 28, 2025 from the Milton Peters College, and it goes out to the parents. And the letter states the following. The subject is gambling on school grounds. Dear parents, it has come to our attention that the increasing number of students are engaging in gambling activities during school hours. We have observed these various forms of gambling, including dice and card games, where personal belongings and money is being wagered. This behavior is strictly prohibited and will not be tolerated. Gambling not only violates school rules, but leads to serious consequences as such conflicts, bullying, physical altercations. Our school is a place for learning, personal growth, respect, and gambling has no place in this environment. Madam Chair, it goes on. I'll skip a part because I know my time is almost up. It says your support is crucial in reinforcing these values at home. If you had any questions or concerns, please contact the school. So, Madam Chair, for me to sit here today and hear members of parliament indicate that opening of more casinos on our 16 square mile can be good for the people of St. Martin, then God help us all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Doran. Members of Parliament, I will now adjourn for about 3 minutes so that I caucus with the minister. I'll then be back and inform members of Parliament and the general public as to the continuation of this meeting, which would mean that the minister would be back to respond. So this meeting is hereby adjourned for 3 minutes and 3 minutes. Meeting adjourned. Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, Minister of TIAT Grisha Heiliger Martin and her support staff, we have heard many comments and a few questions that have been posed in the second round of this meeting. I will adjourn this meeting until a date that the ministry and the parliament, so myself, would communicate in terms of the continuation. There are a few questions, but they're questions that the minister really has to look into in terms of providing some information that has been requested. And thus, in consultation with the minister, I will notify you of the continuation of this meeting. So this meeting is hereby adjourned. I want to thank all members of Parliament for their participation in the meeting. I want to thank the Minister for the information provided thus far to the members of Parliament, and this meeting is hereby adjourned.